Not very easy, to be honest. I think that certainly larger spectacle films we get to see a lot of, but what Alejandro is really attempting to do here is really do something incredibly authentically submersive, and in a lot of ways what he's accomplished here is incredibly groundbreaking, because there are CGI elements in it. It is a grand epic, but it's incredibly poetic. It's incredibly existential. You feel this man's, through his survival, you understand a little something more about humanity, and he really is reaching for the stars here as far as what he wanted to achieve cinematically. And I think he's made something incredibly special. And to get financiers and studios behind a project that is this ambitious is few and far between, but it's really a testament to the filmmakers. I mean, this film is kind of a throwback to movies that were made in the 1970s where directors were able to experiment and go on epic voyages with their cast, and ultimately the experience is translated into the narrative structure of the movie. So everything seems to be pre-planned nowadays, and the studios want to know exactly what you're going to put up on screen, and you have to have a tight budget and a sort of locked-in set of circumstances. But this was us submerging ourselves in the elements and seeing what sort of came out. It was, I think everyone in the production will say it was absolutely the most challenging thing we've ever done cinematically. Just by the sheer nature of being in an environment that is constantly changing weather-wise, where you can wake up one day and the entire snowpack is gone. You can come in the next day and there's a hailstorm that is so cold that the cameras don't even work. Presents a lot of logistical challenges, not to mention getting to these locations. Finding places that are untouched by man are very hard to achieve. But for a lot of us, we looked at it as a great challenge, and we looked at it as something exciting because we were really making something unique. This whole thing was shot in natural light. Every day was a rehearsal process, and we'd have this 1.5 hours where we'd scramble trying to achieve what we rehearsed all day long. And if we didn't achieve it in that 1.5 hours, we were right back there the next day trying to do it again. So it was one of these exhilarating, incredibly difficult endurance tests, but I've said it before, it feels like this amazing, beautiful dream that we all had. I like to call all this organized chaos, but all of these sequences, including the bear one, which is I agree, I think it's kind of groundbreaking cinema on Alejandro's part. What he and Chivo achieved there was incredible, because we've seen violent battle sequences or sequences that are incredibly visually stimulating, but what he accomplished was this incredible intimacy between man and beast, where it's almost the silent moments that are the most chilling. And the way Chivo uses the camera makes you really feel like it's virtual reality, like you're this strange animal that's floating around watching something you shouldn't be seeing. And the breath of the bear, the sweat of the animal, the intensity that he creates really makes you feel like you're there. And I've never really felt something like that in my life to this degree. Certainly not a fight sequence. So this was over, this is months and months, if not a year of planning. And what he was able to pull off there was a result of a great amount of research. I mean, he watched over 100 different bear attacks to have every single moment in this sequence be authentic.
Yeah, totally. I don't see him as a villain, I think it was, between you and me, without giving any spoilers away, I think I've got to justify as a defense lawyer, technically, in sort of like metaphorical terms, anything that character does, so he's got to be my friend, So why does he do what he does? It makes total sense to me. And I wonder if you flip-flopped Hugh Glass and put him in the situation that Fitzgerald was, would he not do the same? As soon as they're both in the same business, it's because Hugh has a a child. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's not very nice. But if you look at the amount of people that had like survival rates at the time, and it's not an easy war. It's a very brutal time. Period. We're talking about noise discipline in a situation where there was a lot of danger afoot. So I don't know. I might actually in real life have done the same thing. To be fair, and I wouldn't see myself as a villain. Just hardcore. You hand yourself over to your boss, and you go on your journey with them, and they make the choices and they create the obstacles, and your job is to do or die, as it were. And that's what he laid down. That was his area where he wanted to lay down his his story, and we all went there. And logistically, it was a nightmare at times because he chose very specific places and locations right in the back of beyond, in areas where you had to get, obviously maneuver vast amounts of equipment up and down places, and some areas were inaccessible and whatnot. So I think logistically, just from a management and infrastructure point of view, that was where it was difficult. The rest of it was a good fun, It was, and we got to see some places which we would never normally see, and to invest in a story like this, especially nowadays when not a lot of people will invest in transmuting a story or bringing to life a story of a period which is in such a gritty and direct way, but also incredibly beautiful in the Chivo sort of work, shooting in natural light. There's a lot of ambition, a lot of challenges that were put there and met as artists in a way that's epic and incredible. So I think the mission statement was to bring something very beautiful in, which was also meaningful on multiple levels, and I think that was achieved. Oh, I love him. He's, I love Leo. That's end of. So, and he was like, "Come to Canada, buddy. It's gonna be amazing," and it wasn't. So that's my buddy. Like, yeah, no, I love him. So top drawer, and I'm a huge fan of his. And it was surprising me how somebody, because I don't know anybody else like him who manages to balance the sort of the quintessentially highest point of movie stardom with character acting, as well as his ambassadorial stuff he does with social politics and whatnot, and environmentalism, and be so down to earth and such a cool guy and so generous. But it's a very different balance to. Yeah. I don't know anybody else who does that. So. I mean, yeah, no. I mean, it wasn't like Black Hawk Down. It wasn't like like a band of brothers, or we basically looked at tomahawks and then we threw them for a while, blocks of wood, whilst everybody sort of arrived on set. Do you know what I mean? People started to congregate and get, arrived to start the show and then do rehearsals. So I think it was partly trying to keep the actors interested and entertained. Do you know what I mean? Another part was like showing you props and how things worked, from muskets or loading muskets to possibilities bags or possibles bags and bits of kit. There was a really fantastic old timer called Clay, who was an ex-Vietnam vet, airborne, and he lives constantly going out on trails and trekking and living like this as a part of his lifestyle now. And he was a font of all kinds of wisdom and information of the time and period. So he was a very interesting person to hang out with and talk to. Right.